Okay, hi, Paul Sack. It's Good News Planet. I'm here with Darby Fox. Hi, Darby. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for allowing me to have you here on this call. You know, actually, an MD in your Connecticut area, Dr. Bernie Siegel said, instead of saying "How are you," you should say, "You're looking good." This gets so confusing when you say "How are you," because it's a lot goes into that, right?
It does. Like you don't really, people kind of get stuck because they don't really answer that. I always tell parents of teens, don't ask them how their day was because there's not a lot they're going to say.
Now you're well known, and congratulations. You're well known because you've done a lot of important work for a long time, and you've written now a book called "Rethinking Your Teenager Shift from Control and Conflict to Structure and Nurture to Raise Accountable Young Adults." Okay. Son, you were saying previously before we got on, you like those monsters. No, I mean those children.
I actually do. I love working with teenagers, and I sort of feel like often they're misunderstood. Um, and that's why I like working with the monsters.
uh Okay. Well, why do you think they're misunderstood?
I think that we're learning more and more, probably over the past 10 years, how we think about adolescence, and the development of the brain has certainly changed. And now that we can see into the brain, um, we have a lot better idea that they are still developing. And so what I like to really refer to is I love to help parents see, okay, what's happening here? What is developmentally cognitively happening in their brain so that you get this response, and how can you work better with them?
So I've interviewed, I think a couple of times, the Surgeon Generals
Yeah.
of the country, where they were actually the drug czars of the country,
Yep.
and and actually I worked on the Brain series and Channel 13, the PBS. So they literally stated one of the main reasons why kids shouldn't take drugs is that their brains are still formulating. And up to maybe 21 or maybe longer. I mean, we probably
Right.
all, but not to the capacity of what it was, but they are still formulating, I think is what you're saying. Is that right?
Absolutely. And I think when I give a lecture to kids, to adolescents, I always ask them, I'm like, could I want to, raise your hand if your mother took drugs or drank a lot while she was pregnant with you? And they look at me like, who is this? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And then I equate it to, okay, your brain's developing then, but it's developing, the second fastest stage of development is through adolescence. So again, when you give them that knowledge, they're suddenly like, ooh, that kind of freaks me out. Maybe I don't want to get high all the time and drink. But we don't do a great job of giving people that information.
I think myself, I'm a grandpa, and my kids are now 13 and 12. But and so I have a daughter, but
Yep.
I kind of always treated my daughter like she was 60 from day one. Now, I don't know if that was such a great idea, but I think it was a great idea. I didn't. I treated her like she's an adult at a young age. I don't know whether that mindset is a good mindset. You tell me, but I think it is good to respect them because they are people too. I remember what Kids Are People Too, Art Linkletter, right? That was
Yeah.
a show. I don't know if you remember it,
I
but
don't remember it, but I know the name. I
you're
definitely
much
know the name.
younger. But that was the name of the show. Kids Are People Too, and it did very well in television. And Art Linkletter was a superstar guy who gave due respect to children. I think we don't respect sometimes that the children are people too. What do you think?
Well, and I totally agree with you. And that's one reason I really love working with adolescents, because really what I like to remind people of is once they get to adolescence, taking their phone away or those kind of things really aren't effective. What you want to do is think about, from now on, I really need to have a relationship with this
Yeah, that's good.
child of mine. So what are relationships based on? They're based on respect. So you got it right.
Well, you know what? I'm going to only say I got it right because my daughter is magnificently wonderful, stupendous, and phenomenal. And some of the things I even suggested to her to do, she didn't do, and she was smarter than me. So, I got to throw in one more thing just because you're saying this word. I don't like that word, adolescence. I almost feel that the connotation, if that's a right word, correct word also,
Yeah.
of the word adolescence almost is not a positive word. It sounds to me like a negative word. Am I also off here or not off?
No, I agree with you because immediately if someone hears teen or adolescent, there's this, oh my gosh, that's so awful. And we'll just wait until they're 21 and then everything will be great. But so in that sense, maybe we need to change our thinking around adolescence. And that's certainly what I suggest in the book, is that we actually have to give them credit because as that brain develops, and it's not quite solid yet, it is also more creative and novelty seeking than at any other time in their life. So these adolescents can actually be really invigorating and positive if we treat them with respect.
I think they also say with this brain series I was involved with that by the time it's 7, it's almost all over. They've learned so much in their child's. I mean, just think about it. They learn how to move their hand. They
Yeah.
learn how to move their eye somehow. They knew to maybe hug or they got hugged. I mean, these are like major things that we sort of, as you get older, just take for granted. Is it true?
That is absolutely true. So those sort of basic social cues and things are really important and really need to be learned in real time. So that's kind of an issue with where we are now with COVID and everything being online, because it's hard to take it in if it's not three-dimensional when you're young. But I think to your point there, one of the most important things is, or big mistakes is, people think adolescents, frequently because their size is similar to a full grown adult, is that they really are adults. So if their body's big, then their mind should be the same. And that's probably where we make the biggest mistake. It doesn't mean that what they do is disrespectful. It means they really aren't thinking about that. They're thinking primarily about gratification. So they kind of jump that piece. And if we knew that and we're like, wait a sec, what are they going to think about as their end game? How can we preview that? And that's kind of the key to adolescence.
So let's talk about that. It's a very, very good point. And thank you, for thinking on that and sharing that because, I've had a lot of interns and I say to them, what are you, how could you think like that? Then I realize I'm like 3 times their age.
Right. You're like, wait a sec.
Up here and I got this happened there and that happened. And so I take all those things that happened to me and I say, well, blah, blah, blah. So give us some thoughts in the book that can help us parents, and maybe can the parents be wise enough to also share with their children, maybe listening to this exact interview?
So what I would like parents to think is take away, that is one of the biggest factors, is that a adolescent's brain, so we're going to say anywhere from 12 to somewhere in your early 20s, is hardwired, and we do have statistics on this and great graphics and all those things that tell us that they are hardwired to seek gratification. And the neurotransmitters in the brain that say stop, don't do that, it's dangerous, or it might hurt someone's feelings, or any of the stop mechanism gets outruled nearly 3-to-1. So the piece that says go ahead, seek risks, you're novelty seeking at that stage, it makes sense because we're trying to get you ready to be on your own. So you've got to kind of explore the world. That's a piece I want parents to think about. So we can't necessarily change that they're hardwired for gratification, but what we can do is say, All right. I know that this is what you really want to do, but think about your life could basically change in 3 seconds. Like, these are the things you need to be aware of. Once we put them in an adolescent's brain, because intellectually they're really able to take it in, but they have to sort of sift through it first. So I would love for parents to preview the kind of behavior that they want, and not in a long, annoying lecture, because adolescents hear about 2 sentences and then they've moved on. But just say it simply like that. Just think about what would happen. Here's some of the consequences, and then leave it. If parents said, look, you come home late, you don't get the car the rest of the weekend, then they don't have to have a fight. When the kid walks in a half hour late, they're like, buddy, I love you to death, or daughter, whatever, but you were late. Sorry. And keep it in a much more regulated, simple way.
You know, I got to say, I admire my own daughter and her husband. They are good with those consequences.
Yeah.
I don't ever think I ever said, if you did that, something, you know, I never actually liked that comment, because I would say, if you do that, then you can't, I mean, half of the time it's treats, but
Right.
sweets, but whatever it is, I think it actually is good. It sets some limits. It gives some ability to a child to know more than they know, because they
Right.
might not think that. And everybody, it's helpful to have a little direction in a loving way. I mean, they're saying
Right.
it for a loving way. If that is good. That consequence potentially, where I used to think it's like the worst, it's actually a very nice thing.
Well, I think also that kind of takes you back to, what are we doing? We're raising these people to understand there are consequences to your behavior. And that doesn't mean we don't love you anymore. Often parents think, oh, I can't do that. Then they'll think I'm mad or whatever. It really isn't about that. It's like, if you don't turn a project in time at work, your boss isn't going to say, I don't like you anymore, but they might say, you can't work here anymore. So I think it's important that we start to sort of teach, you're in control of your outcome a little bit. And that's actually, you're choosing a consequence if you don't follow through.
Okay, that makes good it makes good sense by far. What are some other thoughts that you're creating in the book? And do you have a website? Let me ask that as well.
I do. Darby Fox at darbyfox.com, or Darby at darbyfox.com. I sort of get confused between Instagram, websites, all that. But anyway, I think it's also important for parents to realize, with the adolescents, what you're really trying at that stage is to develop a relationship, because that's what carries you into a lifetime of a relationship with your child. So it isn't so much about what will you achieve, who will you become. It's, what are the qualities? What's your foundation? Who are you at the core? And I think that we could do a better job maybe with adolescents in acknowledging who they are and helping them develop that piece, as opposed to going for things like high SAT scores, or, incredible athletics, or belonging to certain clubs.
Okay, that's good. That's good advice by far as well. So how about the best friend dad? How about the good dad, the bad mom, the good dad? How about that routine?
That's hard. It's hard to leave all this sort of disciplining on the mom's shoulders. And so I don't know that we'll necessarily get away from that. But what I would like for moms to think about is that piece of the relationship. So you can still get across what you need, but what I want them to think about, instead of having such a hard line about control, like, no, I said that, or you can't go out Friday night because you went out, a few kids will be like, what? That makes no sense. So instead of getting caught up in control, what I would like moms to go back to, so they don't have to be the good, bad mom, is, hey, you know what? That's not great. That behavior doesn't really work well. Or, you know what you just did and said kind of hurts my feelings. I always am here for you. I expect you to return that. So we want to take it to, we want to go with that emotional piece and connect to that.
How about that? Let us. I'm a women's liberator, so that's for sure.
Okay.
Because my mother was a women's liberator.
You had no choice.
So either way, when when your dad gets home, you're gonna feel the pain. No, when your
Right.
dad gets home, or I'll say, or when your mom gets home. But in most cases, I guess it's when your dad gets home, because
Yeah.
most of the time moms take care of the children. That's nothing wrong with it. It's not a chauvinist comment. They're better at it, I think. So when your dad gets home, do you think that's a good idea to put fright in a child, an adolescent? Is it needed?
No, I don't, because again, you're not basing your relationship on something that is accountable. So if you want to raise an accountable child and adolescent, and then you're always, putting things off on someone else, that doesn't really make sense. So I would love to empower moms to say, listen, no, your dad may not get it because he's not here all day. Love him to death, but he may not understand it. This is the way it goes.
All right. I like it. I like it. All right. The book is, thank you. We could talk for a long time more, and I appreciate it, but I know you got a lot of people. Thanks for spending some time with us. Rethinking Your Teenager, Shifting from Control and Conflict to Structure and Nurture. What a beautiful word. To raise accountable young adults. That nurtures love.
Lots of words in that title, but.
They're good words. They're good words. It's fine. It's good. It says a lot of into itself. Actually, I don't know, I talk so much about myself. But when my mother, the librarian at Temple Emmanuel here in New York, this big temple, gave me Reverend Norman Vincent Peale's book, The Power of Positive Thinking.
Yeah.
Being a stupid little kid, I probably didn't read the book. But because I protested, my mother's a librarian. What do I gotta read books for? She was so smart. And in any case, but the words on that title actually have had an effect enough for me to, many years later, and many, many times later, have spoken about the power of positive thinking. So even if someone just sees this title, there's knowledge in your title alone. So I commend you.
Well, I thank you. I want people to think adolescence, if you're positive, you'll affect a lot more positive change.
There you 1,000%. That in every aspect of your life.
Exactly.
I'm going to talking about positive. We're involved with World Peace and the International Day of Peace. I do the concerts in Times Square, Central Park, so on and so forth. And I've asked thousands of people, what does peace mean to them? If you wouldn't mind, Darby Fox, what does peace mean for you?
I think peace means for me sort of a calm place where I feel like I'm comfortable within myself.
Good news. All right. Darby Fox, thank you very much, and much success with the book as you've had with so many other things.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Okay, take care.
Okay, good night.
Good night.